It was the summer after 8th grade, back when my friends and I still spent almost every evening outside. No phones in our faces, no parents tracking our locations every 5 minutes. Once the streetlights came on, that was basically our signal to meet up. There was a public park about 10 minutes from my neighborhood called Hollow Creek Park. During the day, it was completely normal. Families walked dogs there, kids played basketball, people jogged around the trail. But at night, the place felt different. The park sat in a low area surrounded by woods on almost every side. The trees blocked out a lot of the noise from the nearby roads, and there were long stretches of darkness between the lampposts. The playground was old too, not abandoned exactly, but definitely outdated. The swings squeaked loudly even when the wind barely touched them. Most kids our age avoided it after dark because of stupid rumors about people hearing voices there at night. Of course, that made us want to go there even more. It happened in late July when I was 14. That night, my friend Mason texted our group asking if anyone wanted to meet at the basketball courts near the park. I rode over there on my bike around 9:30 p.m. Mason was already there with our friends Tyler and Ben. We spent about an hour messing around, shooting terrible three-pointers and talking about random stuff. Eventually, the lights over the courts shut off automatically at around 10:45. That should have been our cue to go home. Instead, Tyler suggested we walk through Hollow Creek Park because he claimed there was an abandoned maintenance shed hidden somewhere behind the baseball field. So we locked our bikes near the entrance and headed inside. The second we entered the park, everything got noticeably quieter. Not normal quiet either. The kind of quiet where you suddenly become aware of your own breathing. Even Tyler noticed it. "Why does it feel so dead in here?" she muttered. The trail curved around the baseball field first. The field lights were off, leaving the bleachers looking like these dark skeletal shapes in the distance. We kept walking until we reached the playground area. That's when Ben stopped walking. "What?" Mason asked. Ben pointed toward the swings. One of them was moving, not swinging widely, just lightly creaking back and forth. At first, we laughed because obviously wind exists. But then we realized something weird. None of the trees were moving, not even a little. The air felt completely still. Mason walked closer to the swings and grabbed the chain to stop it. The squeaking stopped instantly for maybe 5 seconds. Everything was silent. Then another swing beside him started moving slowly on its own. That made all of us uncomfortable immediately. Mason backed away from it. "Okay, screw that," he said nervously. Tyler laughed, but it sounded forced. We continued past the playground toward the wooded trail behind the baseball field. That trail was darker than the rest of the park because the lamps stopped completely once you entered the trees. We used our phone flashlights to see. The deeper we walked, the colder it got. I know that sounds cliche, but I swear the temperature genuinely dropped down there. Eventually, Tyler spotted the shed. It sat maybe 50 yards off the trail between the trees. Small wooden building, rusted metal roof, one broken window. We got excited because it looked genuinely creepy. The kind of place teenagers immediately want to explore for no reason. As we approached the shed, I noticed the door was slightly open. Ben immediately said he didn't want to go inside. Tyler called him a baby and pushed the door open wider. The smell hit us first. Not a rotten smell exactly, more like damp wood mixed with something metallic. The inside was tiny. Old tools hung on the walls, shelves covered in dust. There was also a folding chair sitting directly in the center of the room facing the door. That alone creeped me out. It looked deliberate, like someone had placed it there recently. Mason whispered, "Why is this chair? Why is this chair just sitting there?" Nobody answered. Then Tyler noticed something on the wall, scratched into the wood with dozens of tiny tally marks, hundreds of them, maybe more. Ben immediately wanted to leave after seeing that. Honestly, so did I. But before we could, we heard something outside. Footsteps, slow footsteps circling the shed. We all froze instantly. whispered, "That's not funny, dude." Nobody responded because none of us were outside. The footsteps stopped near the broken window. Then we heard breathing right outside the shed. Each and every breathing, it was heavy breathing. Mason slowly lifted his flashlight towards the window. For half a second, the beam caught part of a face outside. Pale skin, one eye, and a huge smile. Mason yelled and stumbled backward. The face vanished immediately. At that point, panic completely took over. We rushed out of the shed together and sprinted back towards the trail. But when we reached the path again, Ben suddenly stopped. "Where's Tyler?" We turned around. Tyler wasn't behind us anymore. At first, we thought he was messing with us. We yelled his name a few times. Nothing. Then, somewhere deep in the woods behind us, we heard him scream. Not a playful scream, a terrified scream. The kind that makes your stomach drop instantly. We ran back towards the direction of the sound. Branches whipped against our faces while we shouted his name over and over. Finally, Mason's flashlight landed on Tyler, standing between the trees. He wasn't moving. He just stood there, staring downward. When we reached him, he looked completely pale. "What happened?" I asked. Tyler pointed deeper into the woods without speaking. At first, I didn't see anything. Then Mason's flashlight shifted slightly. There was someone standing farther back between the trees. Tall, way too tall, at least 8 feet, and unnaturally thin. We couldn't make out of a face clearly, but we could see it smiling. I know how insane that sounds, but even from that distance, you could tell it was smiling. Nobody moved. The thing didn't move either. Then Tyler whispered, "It was following us." The second he said that, the figure stepped behind a tree and disappeared. We bolted. None of us cared about looking cool anymore. We sprinted through the woods back towards the playground. I remember hearing footsteps behind us at one point, matching our pace. Not crashing through the woods, just walking calmly. That somehow made it scarier. When we finally burst out near the playground, we almost cried from relief because because we could see the street lights again. But the relief lasted maybe 2 seconds. Every swing on the playground was moving now, all of them, back and forth at the exact same speed. The squeaking filled the entire park. Ben started panicking, saying we needed to get out right now. We ran toward the park entrance where our bikes were locked. But when we got there, all 4 bikes were lying on the ground. Not stolen, just knocked over. And Tyler's front tire had been bent sideways somehow. Then we heard laughing behind us. A child laughing, coming from the playground. We turned slowly. Near the swings stood a little girl wearing what looked like a white dress. She had long dark hair covering most of her face. At first, I honestly thought maybe it was an actual child, until she started swinging by herself without holding the chins, back and forth. But she was flying higher, way higher than should have been physically possible. The chains started jerking violently. That child's laughter suddenly stopped. Then, in a completely different voice, a deep adult voice, she said, "Stay." I cannot properly describe the fear that hit us in that moment. Mason screamed for everyone to grab their bikes. We didn't even unlock them properly. We just yanked them free and started riding. Tyler struggled because of his bent tire, but adrenaline kept him moving. As we rode out of the park entrance, I looked back one last time. The girl was gone, but near the tree line beside the playground stood that tall figure again, watching us, still smiling. We flew through the neighborhood streets until we reached Mason's house. His parents were asleep, so we quietly entered through the garage and locked every door behind us. None of us slept much that night. Tyler kept insisting something had whispered directly into his ear back in the woods when he got separated. He refused to repeat exactly what it said. The next morning, Mason's older brother drove us back to the park because Tyler wanted to get a better look at his bike tire in daylight. Everything looked completely normal during the day. Families, dogs, kids playing basketball. But when we checked Tyler's bike, all of us noticed something strange. Pressed into the metal rim of the bent wheel were tiny fingerprints. Small fingerprints, like a child's hand had squeezed the metal hard enough to bend it. Tyler threw the bike away a week later, and none of us even went back into Hollow Creek Park at night again. A few months later, I searched online trying to find out if anything bad had ever happened there. I found an old newspaper article from the early 90s about a missing child. A little girl disappeared near the woods behind the basketball field. They never found her. What really bothered me though was the picture attached to the article, because the girl in the photo looked exactly like the one we saw on the swing.